The preseason rolls on tonight with the Giants and the Patriots. For more on that game, let's bring in Jordan Renan, who covers all things Giants for us here. And Jordan, the rookie Jaxson Dart has impressed so far in the preseason. How much should we expect to see him play tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. The expectation is that we're going to see Dart early and often, perhaps throughout most of the first half on Thursday night against the New England Patriots. Now, this is important for Dart in that we don't know when we're going to see him again this season. Remember, Russell Wilson is the starter. We're unlikely to see him today in this preseason game. And that means that Dart could sit perhaps the whole season, perhaps a few games. It'll depend on how Wilson does this year. Now, it's also important to remember something that quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney told me just this week. I asked him, what was the biggest improvement about Dart so far since the start of training camp? And he told me it's his ability to retain information and how he takes it all in and how he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And then Dart, he noted how in the first preseason game, they messed up a play to Greg Dulcich, a pass down the seam. Second preseason game, got it right, turned into a touchdown. That's how much this game experience means to the rookie. Now, another thing to add here, and something we should keep in mind, is how much Dart plays with the Giants' first-team offense, specifically their offensive line. We saw it last week in the preseason game against the Jets. It could indicate that the Giants are preparing to get Dart ready to play whenever it may be in the regular season, sooner rather than later.
Great stuff, Jordan. Thank you so much. Well, Coach Herm, they're getting him ready to play, sooner rather than later. You went through a similar situation with the Jets when you had veteran quarterback Vinny Testaverde with the first-round pick Chad Pennington behind him on the depth chart. Take us behind the scenes. How did you handle that situation?
Well, I think how I handled it is going to be the same way the Giants have to handle it. When you look at their schedule, whoever scheduled this schedule for the Giants is not nice when you think about it. Their two away games are against division opponents, right? In Washington and Dallas. And then they turn around and play Kansas City and the Chargers at home. So that's 4 playoff teams. If they struggle, if this offense is kind of struggling after week 4, let's say they're 1-3, you might consider a change. We were 2-5 when I made the change. We were sitting there at 2-5, and I said, you know what? I made the change on the airplane. We had just played Jacksonville. We were flying back home. I was in the back of the plane where I was sitting. Called Paul Hackett back there. I said, Paul, I need to talk to you for a minute. He said, what's up? I said, 10's going in. He said, when? I said, he's next game. He's playing. He's a starting quarterback. And we ended up winning the division. Now, you know, if you're a coach, you're looking at this, and I get it. You got to win because there's a lot of heat on you right now. And if Russell Wilson struggles early out of the gates, I can see this young guy playing. This guy reminds me a lot, when you watch him play, a lot of Josh Allen. Big, strong arm, accurate, mobile, runs. I mean, Coach had that guy in Buffalo. He sees it. Everybody sees it. It jumps off. It jumps off the film on you. It's like, whoa, look at this guy. So after week 4, we'll see.
Well, you're right, Coach. They certainly have a brutal schedule. And, Adam, as good as Jaxson Dart has been, we've heard head coach Brian Daboll say that Russell Wilson is the starter. What more can you share with us about the Giants quarterback room?
Well, I think that is the absolute plan. Russell Wilson will start the regular season opener against the Washington Commanders. They'll have him planning to play the next week against the Dallas Cowboys before they come home to play the Kansas City Chiefs in their home opener on Sunday Night Football in week 3. So it's a daunting early season schedule, certainly. And I think they're planning on going with Russell Wilson. But everybody in and around the organization can see that aside from Russell Wilson being impressive with throws like this one, Jaxson Dart, it's not too big for him. He's got a certain electricity about him. He's become a leader early on in his rookie year, and guys are gravitating towards him. And I think he's been all that they hoped he would be and more. We all know at some point in time, Jaxson Dart's turn is going to come. But really, it'll be up to Russell Wilson, the team. If they come out and play well early and win, Russell will keep his job. If they don't and they struggle, then at any point in time, they are open to going to Jaxson Dart for that type of spark that Coach Edwards was talking about on the plane ride back to Kansas City.
You see, that's the difference. I just experienced the Russell Wilson experience, roller coaster, whatever you want to call it, in Pittsburgh. And in that, when they were winning and they were hot, the vibes were good. And then they started to lose. But Mike Tomlin stuck with Russell Wilson because he was his #1 choice. That was the guy that he put all his eggs in that basket. He wanted to bring him there. That was the guy, ride or die. And he didn't have the pressure of being concerned about his coaching status. He was going to be fine no matter what. It is so different in New York because we know Jaxson Dart is their #1 guy. Yeah, they like Russell Wilson, but they didn't draft Russell Wilson. They know that Russell Wilson is not their quarterback of the future. And when you've got a guy like Jaxson Dart that has this aura and this swagger, everything I've read, everyone I've talked to has just talked about how genuine and how just charismatic and captivating this guy is. You want to play for him. And so I think when you're the Giants coaching staff and you know that all of the pressure of the world is on you to get this quarterback decision right, and you've got a guy back there that wants this pressure, that is not making the same mistake twice, it's a lot easier to take the reins out of the hands of a guy like Russell Wilson, who still has an amazing moonball, but as we've seen, the decision-making isn't always there. He's lost a step or two. He is not the same quarterback he used to be. It is easier then to pivot to Jaxson Dart and give him the reins and say, hey, let's go. Let's be charismatic and get them out of the locker room and onto the field and into the end zone.
Brooke, you talk about the aura of Jaxson Dart. I live in New York City. People are intoxicated with the idea of Jaxson Dart being the future quarterback of the New York Giants. I sit next to Chris Canty, Giants Super Bowl champion, every single day, and he is pleading with the Giants to open their heart to Dart. Everybody's waiting to see what Jaxson Dart can do with the franchise. We're just 5 days away from the NFL's final roster cut down day, and we've seen a bunch of trades over the past 24 hours. Adam, take us through what went down, and let's start with the Jets.
Well, Michelle, we always see a host of moves made as teams try to get down to 53 players, but we began to see trades yesterday, starting with the Jets officially acquiring 2 defensive tackles in trades, most notably Harrison Phillips from the Minnesota Vikings. These are 2 A-plus character defensive tackles who also can help out. They will be assets on the field and in the locker room. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Saints gave up 2 draft picks to the Denver Broncos for Devon Vele, a wide receiver. Denver has a surplus of receivers. The Saints wanted more help at the position, and the Saints were willing to trade a 4th-round pick in 26 and a 7th in 27 for a player that at times has reminded Sean Payton of Marcus Colston, who starred in New Orleans. And a team that has been decimated at the wide receiver position is the San Francisco 49ers. And that's why, in the end, they were willing to make a deal with the Kansas City Chiefs in a late-round draft pick flop, where the 49ers now pick up Sky Moore, who was unable to gain any traction in Kansas City, and now will have the opportunity to catch on in San Francisco, which has a whole host of injuries to basically its entire receiver group. The only healthy receiver out there right now, and I even hesitate to say anything because so many things seem to go wrong with so many skill position players. Ricky Pearsall has been healthy. Other than that, everybody in the wide receiver room has been banged up.
Yeah, Adam, let's drill down on that and reiterate it. The 49ers do have their hands full with their wide receivers. 6 of their top 8 receivers are either hurt or suspended, as you mentioned. The only returner who's not, Ricky Pearsall, hence why they traded for Sky Moore. This also comes just months after trading All-Pro Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. And Coach Herm, coming off the year that San Francisco had, going 6-11, coupled with those injuries, do you believe they're still Super Bowl contenders in the NFC, or has that window closed?
I don't think the window's closed. I think what's closed right now for them is their ability to put a healthy wide receiver core out there. You're talking about Ricky Pearsall. Pearsall played for me as well as Brandon Ayuk, and visited with John about 2 weeks ago. That's their concern. Can these get these receivers healthy? Because the schedule will allow them to win games when you look at their schedule. The schedule makers were nice to the 49ers when you look at the schedule. And so if they can just find a way to get these receivers healthy and get them back, this offense will be very, very potent. And defensively, with solid back, I mean, they're going to play outstanding defense. So they'll be in the hunt. They should challenge the Rams.
Yeah, and look, I think maybe one window closed. I think the old Super Bowl window closed. That doesn't mean another one isn't opening with this young core of players that they have now. They have some turnover on the defensive line, in the secondary, in the wide receiving core. And I checked in with Nick Wagner, our great 49ers reporter, and I asked him about those injuries in the wide receiver core and just how problematic are those going to be. And he said, look, yes, there is the Jennings contract issue, but by and large, this is not a situation with a lot of lingering injuries or lingering suspensions. So they should be getting those pieces back sooner rather than later to help them build and to gain some momentum. The talk around this team doesn't have anything to do with, gosh, our window's closed. What are we going to do? We're going to sit here and just be so sad. No, they're not trying to recreate what they used to have. They're trying to build on the fly. The Rams did it successfully a couple years ago, but I think a lot hinges on how quickly Robert Saleh can get this defense going in the direction and get them all to buy in to what he's preaching.
We're talking about how banged up they are at wide receiver. We also should point out how banged up they are at running back. There is really one healthy running back on the roster as well, and that is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's been their healthiest running back in training camp. We know what he went through last year. Now, the upside to all that is he is well rested, he is rejuvenated, and even the 49ers Pro Bowl left tackle Trent Williams said today that Christian McCaffrey this summer has looked like the NFC Offensive Player of the Year. He's been dominant in training camp, but they need him to be that way because Christian McCaffrey might be on the football field for every single down.
Well, a healthy CMC, that's something 49ers fans certainly want to hear. Well, the 49ers have the numbers on their side. They have a 60% chance to make the playoffs per our ESPN analytics. That's the fourth best in the NFC. Well, let's move over to the Chiefs, who traded away Sky Moore. And remember, they are also waiting to see what happens with Rashee Rice. Rice is expected to have his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on September 30th for his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas that left multiple people injured. Adam, what more can you tell us about the situation?
Listen, there's always the possibility that Rashee Rice and the NFL could settle on a certain amount of discipline before. But here's where that is at. The reason that there's been no settlement is because the NFL has been proposing an 8-game suspension for Rashee Rice. 8 games. The baseline penalty in the personal conduct policy is for 6 games, but he doesn't even know if what he did falls under the personal conduct policy. This is a vehicular issue, which you could argue might belong in a separate category. And so there are a wide, divergent group of opinions here on what it is. But this is what we do know. The baseline personal conduct policy suspension is 6 games. The league initially wanted to suspend him 8 games. Rashee Rice believes he deserves a lot fewer than the 8 or the 6. And if they can't settle it before and agree on some type of discipline, then that disciplinary hearing is scheduled for September 30th. And again, I think the league has wanted an 8-game suspension all along, which has not been out there before.
That decision will certainly be consequential, Adam. Well, speaking of the Chiefs, all six episodes of The Kingdom are available now, streaming on ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. The Kingdom takes an unprecedented look at the Kansas City Chiefs' legacy over 60 years of highs and lows, focusing on their incredible 2020